How we doing? We all caffeinated? Doing good? All right. Well, I am very excited to be here. I feel like the luckiest presenter ever to be here at the Orpheum. How awesome is this? I actually remember I was just saying to Tony, I remember my very first social media breakfast, I think 3.5 years ago. So it's been awesome to see how you guys have grown this thing. So kudos to Tony and the whole team. We're pretty lucky to be in Madison and have a resource like this, especially a free one at that, to come and learn every month. So before I forget, Discover Wisconsin is taking over the social media breakfast Twitter handle. I have Mark over there. Hi, Mark. That's my colleague. He is going to be tweeting. He's going to be giving away a couple things, actually. We have 5 travel-related books, Wisconsin travel guides, and then we also have a River Falls getaway, including a one-night stay and a few other fun prizes. They are a 2015 partner destination, a destination partner, rather, of ours. So be sure to follow along with Mark and the Social Media Breakfast Twitter handle to learn how to win that, and also chime in. We'll talk more about how I definitely want to hear what you guys have to say, since the list I'm about to share is definitely not exhaustive. So, Tony, you going to help me out here? Be my clicker? Okay. I have a really unique position, and I work for a very unique company. I am part co-host, part marketing and PR strategist. So I host a TV show called Discover Wisconsin. Hope you've heard of it. It's been around a long time. But I'm also the PR and social media strategist for a company called Discover MediaWorks. Next one, please. Oh, and shout out to my colleague, Michael Pilsner, who helped me out with this presentation. Despite my skepticism, he was adamant that I included this slide. This is baby Mariah in all her glory, back when I was 5. Next one, Tony. So Discover MediaWorks is, again, it's a very unique company. We have 3 different branches, so to speak. So one of them is a marketing communications firm. Go ahead. And this is more of the marketing communication side of things. So we do marketing for a variety of clients all across the state, many of which are in the tourism industry, but it really runs the gamut as far as the different categories we cater to. So anywhere from the Wilderness Resort to Rank Seed to Triggs grocery stores and Triggs Smokehouse up north. We kind of do it all, and we launched our social media department over the past couple of months, so we've been doing that even more so. So that's part of my job. And then we also have a TV show, if you'll click to the next one, Tony. This is called Into the Outdoors. This one hasn't been around as long as Discover Wisconsin, but just super awesome. Emmy Award winning. It's actually earned an Emmy Award every year it's been in existence for the past 14 years, and it's up for its 10th Emmy Award on November 1st, so wish us luck. This is a kids TV show all about science education. We have great lesson guides for teachers, middle school teachers online that is accessible to them. So really cool program. And then our third branch of what we do is Discover Wisconsin. So this is our flagship program. And before I get into the social media side of things, I wanted to give you guys a little bit of a history, mostly because I find it fun and fascinating, and I hope you guys too, and it is a pretty colorful history. Discover Wisconsin, go ahead to the next one, Tony, started back in 1986. So we are the longest running travel TV show in the country, which is pretty cool to say. And I love that it started out on a fishing boat on Lake Minocqua back in 1986. I think that's pretty appropriate. Our founder, his name was Dick Rose. He was on a fishing boat. I believe he was guide to Tommy Thompson before Tommy was governor. And Dick had said to Tommy, I think we need to do a better job of promoting our state, getting people to spend their tourism dollars here. Well, Tommy thought that was a fun idea. At the time, it seemed pretty outlandish, but he thought it was fun. He ended up becoming governor, bumped into Dick Rose about a year later, and Dick said, hey, you remember our idea from our fishing trip? And Tommy said, hey, you know what? The state will come up with half the funding if you guys can fundraise the rest of it. So at the time, the show was partly funded by the Department of Tourism. Now they are one of our clients or one of our partners, but we are a private company, and we get our funding through a lot of our destination partners, partnering with different chambers and different tourism brands throughout the state. So it's fun to just look back and see how it has evolved. Next one, Tony. Our first episode ever, this is appropriate as well because we actually have another office up in the Eagle River area. We do tons of work up there. It was on the Eagle River World Championship Snowmobile Derby, and back then it aired in one market only. It was in Wausau. Now we are in markets across the Midwest, but back then it was one show in our first season, and it premiered in February of 1987. We have produced more than 400 episodes through our 2015 season, again, making us the longest running travel TV show in the country. So I believe we have yet to beat The Simpsons, and there's a couple other shows out there we're always trailing behind, but we've been around a while, and we do air every single weekend, and we premiere 18 new episodes each season. So again, we started off in one state, actually one market way back when. Now we are across 8 different states, in unique markets in each state. So Chicago and Dubuque, the Twin Cities, up in the UP. The bulk of our viewership is definitely in Wisconsin. We have a ton of Wisconsin viewers, but we are all over the Midwest. And we have a radio program as well. Now we get about 480,000 viewers every single weekend, and we reach about 11 million homes as well. And then I also wanted to talk about, our radio program here. So a lot of people don't realize the show's been around forever, but our radio program has been around since the early 90s. When people partner with Discover Wisconsin, they're getting a lot more than a TV show. That's kind of how it all got started, but really it's a marketing program that they're partnering with us for. They're getting a TV show out of it. They're also partnering with us to get exposure on our Discover Wisconsin radio program, which airs across the state. It's a 3-minute program that runs Monday through Friday. And social media. We joined, I believe, back in 2009, before I joined Discover Wisconsin, and it's a bigger part of the overall marketing plan for our clients than it ever has been in the past. So to date, we've given away over $100,000 in prizes. We're constantly doing contests, and we've integrated social media into our show. I'll give you a sneak peek as to what that looks like near the end, but social media it plays a huge role in the overall Discover Wisconsin brand. So when it came time for me to decide what exactly I wanted to talk to you guys about today, I immediately reflected back on that cold November day last fall when Facebook had, I don't know if they really announced, but they had made it very obvious that they had changed their algorithm. And it seemed like it really hurt a lot of us marketers. Cue the collective gasp we all had when a lot of brands noticed that their content was not getting seen in the news feeds of their users. And people started whispering about whether Facebook was preparing for this kind of this death of organic reach. Basically, you're going to have to start paying if you want your stuff to be seen. And while I don't know if that's to come true or not, I think that my opinion is that regardless of whether or not you have to pay, quality content will always reign supreme. So with Discover Wisconsin, we obviously paid very close to attention, like a lot of other marketers did, when it came to looking at what the stats were and whether or not our engagement numbers went down. We actually, our ad spend, we didn't change it, we didn't increase it after that happened, and we actually saw an increase in our overall organic reach. Next slide, Tony. So this is just showing Discover Wisconsin in comparison to a few other of the tourism players throughout the Midwest, ones that we keep an eye on. We don't have the highest fan count ever. We have about 75,000 likes right now, which I'm very happy about, but what I'm more proud of is our engagement score. So my whole premise of this presentation is really not about, you can spend a ton of money getting into, having the highest likes ever, but if you don't have an audience, a community rather, that's really invested in what you're doing, if they're really having fun with your page and paying attention to what your messages are, then it's kind of worthless. So I wanted to spend my presentation talking about 10 of the things, and again, this isn't as exhaustive, but 10 of the things that I think have helped me personally with growing Discover Wisconsin's engagement score. So here we go. I'm going to try and breeze through these because I really want to make sure we have time for our Q&A later. So I'll attempt to get through them fast. And also, again, please chime in on social media if you have additional tips that you've learned throughout your time as a marketer or working on your own brands, which I think is a great segue for our first tip. Number 1 here, be a student. I think some of my best inspirations have come from observing what other people are doing, not just brands, but what my friends are doing, what obviously the Target is doing, and also paying close attention to what other brands are doing outside of your category. I think a lot of people don't think about that because it can be too easy when you're in your own category to pay attention and kind of follow the rules of what your brand is used to doing. So in tourism, sometimes you see we run the same kinds of contests and we share the same kinds of photos and you kind of blend in with your competition. So a lot of times will take a look at brands that are so far removed from what I do at Discover Wisconsin. I hardly ever look at what other TV shows are doing. And even tourism brands across the country, I rarely look up what they're doing because I just think it's important to kind of think outside the box and draw inspiration from completely different kind of brands. And even taking that one step further, one step bigger, I think that just listening to the conversations that are happening around you. It's social media. It's where people, that's the first place they go in a lot of scenarios when they want to find out information, or when I want to find out what other people are saying about a certain topic. That's one of the first places I'll go, is Twitter or Facebook, to see what they're saying. So there are a lot of examples I'll show you throughout the presentation where we felt like we were very quick about getting things up because we were listening to the conversation, or in some cases we even forecasted ahead of time what we thought our target would be interested in. I'll explain that a little bit more in a bit. Number 2, think like the target. I think that a marketer's, his or her biggest talent may be their ability to step in the shoes of their target market. And this is not an easy thing to do at all, especially if you're not the target, right? If it's completely different than who you are, that can be a challenge. And our target, I'm not the target for Discover Wisconsin, so I'm constantly having to, really think things through and try and get to know the target, either via social media or when we're out in the field shooting, really listening to what they have to say about our brand. It's so very important. I really think that when you put that hat on, when you're crafting social media posts, or when you're coming up with imagery for your overall marketing plan, your content is going to be that much stronger, because if your target feels like you're directly speaking to them or sharing things that appeal to them, they're going to respond to that, and hopefully in a positive way. But they're going to engage with you when they feel like you're getting that one-on-one conversation on social media. So don't lose that, because I think a lot of marketers want to get on. Go ahead to the next one, Tony, if you wouldn't mind. Want to get on social. They view it as sometimes, I think, just an extra marketing avenue where they can help promote this, specific event, or trying to get call to action is the big buzzword, but I kind of keep that out of social media. Really here, it's all about connecting with our audience on a really emotional level, and getting them to kind of think of Discover Wisconsin in a little bit more of an indirect way. So with this post, you can probably guess, I was trying to evoke emotions with my target audience of, that kind of simplicity, and getting them to, ignore the Disney Worlds of the world and just think about, here's what we have right here in our backyard that you can take advantage of. Go ahead to the next one. And just kind of an FYI, you'll see this kind of layout in all of my slides. So we have the impressions on the far left, the number of likes, the comments, and then the shares here on the far right. So this one doesn't say, it didn't say anything about Discover Wisconsin on that post. And so some of my posts work really hard to talk about their brand and when they can watch the show, but in a lot of cases, it's a lot more indirect than that. And studies will tell you that emotion is a key driver. It really is. So this is something that I think is lost on a lot of brands on social media. I'm always thinking, that's the first question that runs through my mind, and it's the last one too, before I hit post, is what kind of emotion do I think this will really evoke within my target audience? Hopefully a good one. So I'm not about getting people riled up. I know there are a lot of brands, trolls, internet trolls out there who that's the way they get their high engagement. But I really think it's important to think about what kind of emotion you think you're gonna get, and whether that conversation will be positive. Go ahead, next one. Again, here's another one similar to the last one I showed you, trying to evoke that similar kind of peaceful emotion there, and we're constantly having to break away from the craziness of some of the other tourism brands out there who are constantly pushing the excitement factor and the kind of the theme parks and things like that, and we kind of step it back a notch when it comes to DW. And again, some engagement here. Obviously very powerful imagery, and I'll talk a little bit more about the importance of imagery here. I keep copy on imagery. It's a pretty rare occasion that I add copy to the photo. So this is the most copy you'll probably see on any of our imagery. Be great consistently. I know this is easier said than done. Everyone wants to be great consistently. We know this already. But there are a couple of key things here. Go ahead to the next one, Tony. We touched on this a little bit, community versus audience. I think that once you understand the difference between the two, an audience is basically a group of people. And like I said earlier, you can buy your way to an audience. It's not that difficult on social media, right? You spend a little bit of money, you watch the likes go up, and the same thing goes for Twitter and hopefully soon Instagram for all brands. Which is great. If you have the biggest ad spend in the world, more power to you. But if they're not listening to what you're saying and not engaging with you, that's not a community. A community is something you have to earn that. You really have to work hard for that. And I think it's important, and I think Facebook realizes this too. That's why they released that statement back in November and said something about, we think it's really important that our users get the right content at the right time to the right amount of people so that they see the things that are most important to them. I'm paraphrasing, but it was something like that. They know that they're trying to build a community too. They don't want just a bunch of people there. They want people using Facebook. When it comes to what we do as marketers, we can't really get upset about that, because it should be anyway, exactly in line with what we want to do. We want to get our messages out at the right time to the right people. Go ahead to the next one here. And I know that I'm preaching to the choir here when I say this, but it isn't free and it isn't easy. And I want to make sure, I was about to touch on this earlier, it's very important that while everything I'm about to talk about today is about organic reach, this is not it's not a PSA for anti-ad spending. I absolutely think it's important to have some kind of ad spending in place that should complement what you're doing on an organic level. And I also, it's not easy too. You need to be doing this, especially, I know this is something that was more of a learning curve for me coming to Discover Wisconsin. Being consistently good on social media it takes a ton of effort. We're on the road all the time, so I'm constantly having to be proactive while also being very reactive and trying to, implement real-time marketing when I'm on the road, but also think ahead and not get sloppy, it's just difficult. There's no shortcuts. I have no tips for how to get that done. It's hard work. It's not just an intern's job. I think this has been established in the social media world, I hope, by now. And it's not this just extra social media channel, so it's really important to acknowledge that as well. Go ahead, Tony, to the next one. And again, just hitting that point that this might sound actually a little bizarre, but I really do believe that you have to earn Facebook's trust. I know we just talked about how Facebook, I believe anyway, they're all about building a community, not just an audience. And when I started with Discover Wisconsin social media last April, I had a rough time the first couple of months getting my audience really engaged with what I was doing. But I didn't give up. I mean, it was constant 2 to 3 times a day of very consistent posting, high quality content, and eventually, actually around that November timeframe, which I thought was ironic, I saw things really start to pick up. In fact, now I'll notice I'll put a post out that I know won't get as high engagement, but I'm doing it for different reasons. It'll automatically get seen by a lot of users right away. And part of me believes that Facebook almost will trust brands that consistently have high engagement to kind of put that engagement, that news or that piece of content out on the news feed right away to see how it'll do. So I think that the biggest takeaway here is to really be consistently share very high quality content. And that's what reigns supreme. I mean, there are tons of studies out there. If you take a look into some of the social media studies that have been done, even millennials are saying, we don't mind seeing ads, but they have to be good. They have to really make me think. Even brand content, it can be fun, but you guys have to work to get it, to work with some engagement on the news feed. So that's the number one thing. You never go to social media and think, oh, I need more ticket sales, or I'm really trying to push this one product. You can do that, but you've really got to get creative about how you want to get there. I really am an advocate for doing things in a little bit more of an indirect way, at least when it comes to social media. It's a completely different venue than, say, a print ad or a TV spot or things like that. So vary your style. Here I'll talk a little bit more about specific tactics. The first couple points were more broader kind of marketing perspectives, but this is more about what you can do, and there's just a couple here. Again, this is not exhaustive. There are a ton of different ways you can get your content across, but one of the first ones we'll talk about is gamification. Now, I admit that of all of our posts, our gamification actually doesn't have the highest engagement in comparison to some of our other styles, but I like it because I like the thought of people spending a little bit more time on your posts. So if you'll take a look at this next one, so this one was just a simple, name a community that doesn't have the letter E in it. It has nothing to do with our show. And gamification rarely is about trying to push viewership and trying to push a particular destination. This is just a fun way to be entertaining. And again, those are two things that, again, when you look at studies that fans are really looking for. They want things to be entertaining and or educational, what we call edutainment. So now these both of these here are obviously far on the entertainment side and not the educational side. If you hit both, you're in great shape. But these really just serve the purpose, from my point of view, to really entertain. Conversation starters. So with this one, it's obviously pretty easy to start a conversation on social media. I'm always very careful to make sure I start the right conversation and things don't get out of hand. I post things, I'm monitoring it after that. I never just post and say, see you later. I mean, I'm checking things nonstop to make sure the conversation is going where I thought it would go. So one here is this one. Actually, my thought when we posted, you can actually go to the next one just to see the full image. I figured we'd get a little bit of flack. We obviously have a very loyal audience who that loves Wisconsin, but I figured, obviously it's social and it's very public, so I assumed that out-of-staters might jump on this, but this one went over pretty well, and we had a lot of fun with it. And going back to my comment about evoking emotion, this was what this one did for me. A little bit more copy on this image, but it was all about, when we're posting something, you should always be asking yourself, will this make someone stop on their news feed? What kind of reaction will they have with it? So that's exactly what I thought before we posted here is, will it be a positive reaction and will it surprise them? Is this something they've seen before? Is it new and expected or not? Behind the scenes, definitely something that's been around since people have been talking about behind the scenes stuff on social media for several years now. And with a TV show, it obviously makes perfect sense to share our behind the scenes photos. You can go ahead to the next one, Tony. It is a little bit tricky, I will say. I thought when I started this was one thing I would do more of than I currently do, but because the lead time with Discover Wisconsin it's a little complicated. It actually takes us about 9 months to a year to shoot one 30-minute episode, and that's mostly due to the fact that we feature all 4 seasons in one episode, so we take a full year to do it. So sometimes we'll post this stuff and people get not annoyed, but maybe a little frustrated that this particular show doesn't air for a year later, so I have to be very careful about how I promote our behind-the-scenes stuff. But for me too, this is all about really empowering the people I work with. I'm not on every single shoot. I'm one of 5 or 6 hosts, so I really have to look to our producers and our cinematographers to bring back great photos and video. So it's really important that I kind of chat with them and get them to send things, and I'm lucky that I work in a creative field and I work with people who are very creative, so they take great photos. I never have to train them on any of that, so I don't take that for granted, but this is definitely a big part, especially on Instagram. We do a lot of behind the scenes stuff on Instagram exclusively. Here's some nice engagement on this one as well. This was taken, as you probably noticed, on at the Apostle Islands off Lake Superior. Power photos, probably the bread and butter of I would say Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. It's big, and if people have not realized that this should probably be the number one thing that you're thinking about when you're crafting each individual post, you should be. Because when I started out in social media, I spent a bigger amount of time on copy only. And now I definitely spend just as much time, if not more, finding photos. Now, I'm not a designer or a photographer for that matter, so I really have to get creative when it comes to finding great photos. This is where crowdsourcing has been my best friend. So finding photos that our fans have taken on Instagram. When I first started, I really had to dig and research to find great stuff on Instagram and making sure it was very high quality, making sure I knew everything I knew about where exactly it was taken, because without fail, we always get fans asking how exactly they can get to the destination and where it is. And going to a certain number of online resources to find some great photography. Now, go ahead to the next one, Tony. Now I get probably dozens of emails, posts to our wall, direct messages on Facebook, personal messages to my email account, my own Facebook page, from fans who are hoping they'll get discovered by Discover Wisconsin. So we've really kind of adopted this kind of almost like an amateur photography kind of avenue for a lot of people, which I think is fun. They're fantastic photos from all over the state. Instagram, definitely, for the stuff that's not behind the scenes taken by us, the rest of it is almost entirely crowdsourced images that have either come to me or that I've sought out. And we promote the hashtag Discover Wisconsin, so if you check it out on Instagram, you'll see we've built kind of a nice community there of folks who love our state and promote it on our behalf. So. Here's another one with a decent amount of shares there as well. I love that image. And the power photo, I mean, you always want to kind of think, will this, again, it's an awesome photo, but will it evoke emotion, and is it unexpected? Those kinds of questions should always be going through your mind with every single post that you're crafting. Fill in the blanks, again, kind of one that should probably be no surprise to a lot of people here, but this one does work really well, particularly for this brand. I think one of the reasons why, and feel free to go to the next one, Tony, I think that because our audience, we're obviously consider ourselves an expert on Wisconsin, but our audience is very knowledgeable. They know Wisconsin really well too, even our out-of-state audience. So while we try to teach when we can, we also try to get their input a lot because they have input and they're constantly wanting to share their opinions as to where they think the DW crew should head next. So whenever I get fan mail or things like that, this is a good opportunity for me to do a kind of fill in the blank sort of style and get people to chime in. And because I find, people on social media, users in general are really helpful. They just want to they want to chime in if they've been to a certain place or they've, stayed at a particular hotel or B&B. They want to let us know about it. So we never want to prohibit them from having their voice be heard. Updating albums, one that I don't know a lot of people really think about, especially when it comes to brands, but we have a few different albums that we update regularly and always get very high engagement. One of them in particular is our behind the scenes album. The other is our hashtag Discover Wisconsin. It's our fan submitted, feel free to go to the next one, Tony, we'll show off this one, our fan submitted photo. So I've been updating this for the past year. I like the concept of albums because oftentimes we get our users going through the entire album very regularly. So I think if you're trying to get a lot of great, visual content out there, an album is, something to think about that I'm not sure a lot of brands really have top of mind. So this was just engagement from one particular upload. Like I said, I usually add about 4 to 6 photos every time I upload, and I do that maybe once a month or so. So overall, there's some really nice numbers when it comes to people visiting that. Think it through. So this is probably more of a personal pet peeve, but I do think it relates to engagement on many levels. First of all, you go to the next one, Tony, and the next one, and the next one. It's important to review copy, and that might sound nitpicky. Does that really have anything to do with social media engagement? Well, it does, because first of all, you obviously lose some kind of credibility if you're spelling things wrong all the time, but and it's about sparking a conversation on social media. And again, keeping that social media really positive is a little bit harder to do when there are errors. But when I say review copy, it's so much more than that. It's not just about grammar. I have an online thesaurus open almost every day I'm at work, trying to find different words and different ways to pull people in. You should always be thinking it through, going through it 3 to 4 times. Next one, Tony. And I think that getting other people to review it too. I don't have an editor, a copy editor at our company, but this is something, if you do have access to one, I absolutely recommend working with that person. I think a lot of times I find if brands have someone like that in-house, they just undermine social media a little bit and don't really take it as seriously. So definitely work with your team members if you can, if you have that, if you have access to copywriters to really kind of plus the copy on your page. And start a test page if you don't have one already. We have a private page that we use sporadically when it makes sense, when we have things like this where there's symbols or weird, just weird kind of copy posts that we want to make sure work across all of the, mobile and iPad and tablet and things like that. So, yeah, this is another one of our power photos we shared, I think, over the summer that went over very well as also. So be relevant, and I mean this in a few different senses. Obviously, it's very important to be timely on social media. We keep hearing of this real-time marketing thing that definitely it's not going away. I mean, this is here to stay. So with social media, you see more and more things are just instant, and we're always trying to be one step ahead, and it's hard. It's very hard. Go ahead to the next one, Tony. Back in December, I was literally on my laptop waiting to post this. It was a nail biter. I remember, I think it was Bear's the Packers-Bears game. It decided who made the playoffs. And I think it was, my coworker I think said it was a Rodgers-Cobb play near the end, if anyone recalls. But it was a big deal, and I knew a huge part of our audience, although the Packers is one of our destination partners, so it made sense to us. And this might not be directly related to our show, but I knew that our audience really cared a lot about this particular brand as well. So we wanted to be there, and I think that, go ahead to the next one, Tony, because I literally posted this 5 seconds after the clock counted down after the game. I have to believe that this engagement would not have been even close to what it was had I waited even 5 minutes, because that's all people were talking about on Facebook at that time. And if we weren't one of the first ones up there, we would not have seen nearly as high engagement numbers, I don't think. Go ahead to the next one. And also, and this goes back to what I talked about earlier about really being in tune with the conversations happening around you. It was impossible to ignore the polar vortex conversation that was happening all winter long. And you can bet that made an appearance in a lot of our social media posts. Feel free to go to the next one. This was top of mind for tons of our, not just our Wisconsin viewers, but all across the Midwest. This is what people were caring about. And it did affect our brand. We were shooting in the middle of that polar vortex. So we definitely made a point to talk about it and relate it to our show in some way. To be relevant, I think it's important to adopt an 80-20 rule or something very similar, even if it's not 80-20. By that, I mean, I try to look at our content and craft 80% of it around things that are not directly related to our brand. So you'll see the majority of our posts do not say, watch our show Saturday nights at 6:30 on KOW, which that is when it airs, by the way. But you don't see that. You see things that are related to the brand, but not necessarily overly pushy. I understand that there's some brands who just may not have the capacity, and they only post a couple times a week, and their posts have to work a little bit harder. But overall, I think only 20% or around that, 20% of your posts should really be directly related to sale. Really have a call to action that results in sales. And possibly even a lower number than that, if you can get away with it. So here's another one that was related to our show, but not really. So it doesn't say watch the show, but it's, and also sort of a behind the scenes photo that I took while I was out on a run in Eau Claire while we were shooting there. This one was taken, or it was uploaded to Instagram. We got some nice engagement on that one as well. It's also important to tease them. Go ahead, Tony, to the next one. I love this quote. It says, "Do not build your brand house on land you don't own." That applies to social media in a lot of ways. I don't think there are too many brands out there that are solely trying to get people to go to their social media presences. For us, it's all about our website, our TV show, and our blog. So and we're in the process of launching a brand new website, so I have not been promoting that as heavily as of late, but our blog has definitely been kind of the anchor of our online marketing program anyway. So I always think of things as, I want to give them a taste of what I really want our community, our audience to take into consideration or to really consume. So when it comes to sharing blog posts, for example, go ahead to the next one. I always just include the title. I just consistently use the title every single time. It can be tempting and to share a little bit more, let them know who exactly I interviewed for this blog post or which 7 I included. But I think it's so important to keep them guessing a little bit, but be accurate. I'm starting to see more and more brands who are kind of doing the whole bait and switch thing on social media and have this amazing title. You have to click through, and then you're disappointed when you get there because there's a different video that's not even related to what you were talking about. So make sure you're accurate. But overall, I think really making sure you're obviously keeping your objectives in line, and you're hopefully have things in mind that you guys are trying to promote. For us, our blog is a big part of that, and we're always trying to move people from Facebook to our blog, and then hopefully back to social media. Yeah, our blog posts or pushes anyway on social media have been really successful. And I think for me anyway, they're the epitome of kind of all these things we were talking about, the power photo and I'll be talking more about copy and teasing them with that headline. Which is a great segue, because headlines are everything. When I'm drafting social media content, I'm always thinking of it as if I am writing several headlines. And I know I break the rules sometimes. I definitely will, occasionally get a little lengthier with the copy, but generally speaking, shorter is better. You want to really be punchy when it comes to the copy that you have on social media, which makes sense because we only have so much room to do that. But I'm always alarmed by how many companies out there are trying to share everything they want to get across in one social media post instead of integrating it with their other marketing channels, if that makes sense. So it's going back to the teasing them with the social media, with the content and the link, and then accompanying that with a really great headline and rewrite it. I talked about reviewing copy 3 or 4 times. I cannot tell you with that last blog post you guys saw and the next one you're about to see, actually go to the next one, I rewrote that probably 7 or 8 times before I got the perfect one. I overthink headlines and I overthink imagery when it comes to what I'm sharing on social media, because I think every single word there makes the biggest difference. I have a number in there, I have this Wisconsin in there, I have the main topic at hand, which is waterfalls. I didn't need more than that. Even though there's a ton of really great information that I wanted our fans to know about, I had to trust that this headline and that photo was enough to get them to go to where I wanted them to go. And again, similar to the romantic post one, this one also did really well. We got tons of great click-throughs, and then of course, after I'm looking at click-throughs, I'm also looking at did they stay on the page, and did they go back to Facebook or Twitter? Thankfully, with some really cool WordPress stats, I can track that, and I'll take a look to see if, for example, I see that they went there and didn't spend a lot of time. I'll know that maybe my headline was inaccurate, or maybe I could have written a little better. They thought they were getting something different. So it's all about really thinking about, why your stats are where they're at. Use eye-catching imagery. Hopefully this has come across a little bit in some of the other posts that we've shared. I do make a really big deal out of the images, which again is a challenge because I'm not a designer, so I do have to get creative here, but I never sacrifice our imagery on social media because I do think it's everything. I started out caring way more about copy, and now I realize that the image is the first thing that users see on social media. It's where their eye goes first, and then they go to the copy, and then if they're interested, they'll click see more and view the comments underneath. And then if they really like what they see, they're going to engage with it in some way and share it and like it and do all that fun stuff. So the image is so important. If you have a professional photographer, good for you, but even if you don't, crowdsourcing will be your best friend. Go ahead to the next one. So I love this one. Just a nice, power image. This one's very indirect as far as being related to our show, but I wanted something that people would see in their newsfeed and would make them stop scrolling and take a look at it. Even if they didn't do something with it, I wanted this to be something that that made them go, oh, that's different. I hadn't seen something like that before. Some more engagement numbers. That was taken in Hudson, I believe. I will note that another thing I'm always thinking of when it comes to crowdsourcing imagery is our destination partners. So we have, we do 18 different episodes, but we probably have 50 different destination partners. So when it comes to picking imagery, I do favor those that are our actual partners. So for example, that last one was taken in Hudson, which is a 2015 partner of ours. This guy is 14 years old and took this photo. Go ahead, go to the next one, Tony. He's amazingly talented. Night visuals do really well for some reason. I find that to be very interesting. Anytime we post a night image, it always gets great engagement. But yeah, this is just another great power photo that came through that I knew would speak to people and hopefully evoke a certain kind of emotion, but really get people to respond to it in a positive way. Play to your strengths. How am I doing on time here? So, I'm good. I mean this in a few different ways. So I talked to you guys about how I am not a designer, I'm not a photographer. I am a writer, so I play to that strength as much as possible. Obviously, I do a lot of the blogging myself, and I'm the lead writer on all that stuff for sure, but you also I have access to producers and cinematographers who are very creative, so I try to empower them as much as possible to help me out here and take great stills when they're out in the field. We have a radio program where I will definitely cross-promote when it makes sense. I try to be a little bit more creative. I think it can be too easy to just end with a tag that says follow us on Facebook and like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, but I try to get them thinking about it in a little more way. I kind of give them something to do with that. Use this hashtag if you're going to this event that we were just talking about for 3 minutes, or I'll tell them about contest or about the fact that they can get their photos seen by following us on Instagram. We have also have obviously our blog, so we cross-promote that very heavily. We have, of course, our own icons and our feed on the right-hand side there, so it's very, very integrated. And I, as a PR person, I do tons of media relations appearances all throughout the season. So next week, actually, we are promoting an episode that we did with Dream Bank, actually, and I will be doing 4 different interviews with TV stations, our own affiliates across the state. So you can bet that when it makes sense, I'll bring up social media and I'll integrate it into the interview and in some way. I try not to be too pushy with it, but if it makes sense, I definitely want to call that out. And even things as simple as including social media into your boilerplates, and when you're sending out news releases, and crafting tweets and Facebook posts for other reporters. I'll even send Facebook messages to to anchors and reporters that I have personal relationships with and say, hey, can you promote this post? It's it's playing on your station on Sunday night at 5, kind of thing. So really making it easy for the people that are kind of doing the promotion on your behalf. Obviously, the other thing we have is we have a TV show to take advantage of. So of course we integrate social media on our show as well. We, because of time restraints, we can't be crazy creative when it comes to what we do here, but we do some of the more general follow us on Facebook stuff, but we do integrate it with hashtags and things like that. So I did pull a 2-minute clip which features, I think, 5 different segments from our 2014 shows, if you wouldn't mind pushing play, Tony? Right in the middle. Oh, no audio. Well, they're all visual, so.
Put the microphone back.
She's on Twitter. Find our favorites by logging on to discoverwisconsin.com and searching America's Dairyland. Stay tuned, because Mariah sinks her teeth deep into fried curds after the break.
See and hear more of my personal tour and find out how you can get a half price or free admission for a full year to all of Wisconsin's historic sites by first visiting discoverwisconsin.com. And tell us what your favorite historic site is by joining the conversation on our Facebook page. When we come back, Mariah's made it to the western side of the state for her next historic tour.
What has over 150 parks and up to 15,000 acres of green space? It's the Milwaukee County Park System. Today we're checking out some of those parks, and right now I'm on the Oak Leaf Trail, a beautiful bike trail located in Milwaukee County, over 100 miles long. You want to go for a ride? Let's do it.
Want to learn how to make a great fondue at home? Head on over to our website for a quick and easy recipe. All right, Chef, let's get started.
Great.
But stay tuned, because
cheese, beer, bratwurst. It all comes together in one very special place. Coming up.
We talked the chef into sharing one semi-secret recipe with us that you can try at home. Just visit discoverwisconsin.com and make sure to click into the Lake Arrowhead destination page. And make sure to like us on Facebook. We'll put a link to the recipe on there as well. When we come back, Mariah is showing us what a destination known for golf and lakes does during the winter.
All right, Dave, I'm aiming for you.
You won't want to miss that.
Could you hear that all right, kinda, sorta? You could obviously see the visual call-outs there. But of course, we're doing more and more social media integration on our show. I would love to do live tweeting, but it gets tricky when it comes to Discover Wisconsin, because we air every weekend, but at very different times across the Midwest. So I'd be live tweeting for like 48 hours, which I love social media, but I don't know if I love it that much. So that's everything I have for you. My main takeaways here really is about, really, I think the most important thing is putting that target market cap on and thinking like the target and trying to be 2 steps ahead of them when it comes to predicting what you think they're going to do. The more you do it, obviously, the easier that gets. And not fearing the so-called death of organic reach. I know there's a lot of marketers who are whispering about whether or not Facebook and other social media channels are getting ready to force us to pay, but I really do think that regardless of whether that comes to fruition, it is important to care about quality content, because even if you do put money behind your posts, obviously they're going to get even more engagement if what you have there is already very high quality. So I know a lot of you guys have to jet before we do Q&A, assuming we have time for Q&A, but I did want to let you guys know Sprecher Root Beer is one of our sponsors. They are the official root beer of Discover Wisconsin, and we do have a bottle of Sprecher Root Beer for you over here. Say hi to Scott before you head out the door and grab your bottle. It's the best root beer ever. So, and I wanted to thank you guys all for coming. I know it's not easy, you're all super busy, but I really appreciate you guys taking an hour and a half or so to come to talk social media, and be sure to grab any of us from Discover MediaWorks to talk more about Discover Wisconsin and any of the brands that we work on. Thank you very much.